Today, we're diving into a topic that really affects every single one of us in Malaysia, the government's official report card to you, the citizen. We're going to break down how the government is supposed to keep track of public money and, show its work.
It's the big question, isn't it? You pay your taxes, you see the money leave your account, but then what? Where does it all go? Well, it turns out there's a whole system, a very specific process designed to answer exactly that.
So let's start with this idea of a government report card, because that's really the best way to think about it. It's a formal way of reporting that builds the very foundation of trust between us and the people running the country.
Now, the official term is public sector financial reporting. I know, it sounds a bit stuffy, right? But the idea is actually super simple. It's just the official process for the government to prepare and show us its financial statements. That report card metaphor is perfect because its whole purpose is to show us, the public, how they've been managing the nation's money.
And believe me, this isn't just a bean-counting exercise for the fun of it. The goals here are huge. It's about accountability, right? Proving that our money was used responsibly. It's about transparency, so all of us can see what's happening. And ultimately, all of these things, helping with budgeting, making sure auditors can check the books, they're all aimed at one crucial thing: building and strengthening our trust in the system.
Okay, so what makes this whole thing legit? How do we know the numbers are real? Well, that brings us to the rules of the game. This isn't something the government can just choose to do or not do. It's a serious process, and it's backed by the full force of the law.
And here's the legal backbone holding it all together. It starts right at the top with the federal constitution itself. Then you've got specific laws like the Financial Procedure Act, which lays out how these reports get made, and the Audit Act, which says, hey, an independent auditor has to check everything. These aren't just suggestions. They're the hard and fast rules that make sure the process is followed correctly. Now, with a strong rulebook, you absolutely need referees to enforce it. So let's meet the guardians of the funds. These are the key institutions and the tools they use to make sure everyone stays accountable.
Think of these as the key players on the field. You've got the Accountant General's Department, J&M, who are like the head accountants preparing that main report card. Then, the National Audit Department, JAN, comes in as the independent fact-checker, making sure it's all accurate. The Ministry of Finance is kind of like the coach, setting the overall policy. And finally, the Public Accounts Committee, or PAC, acts as the ultimate referee, reviewing the audited reports in Parliament.
So how in the world do they manage all this data? The main tool in their toolkit is something called GFMS. This is the central digital system that the government uses to pull all of its accounts together. It's basically the high-tech engine that powers this entire reporting process.
Okay, so we know the rules, we know the players, but what does the report card itself actually look like? What's inside when you open it up? Let's decode these reports.
So the government actually produces a bunch of different reports, but the big one, the one you really want to pay attention to, is the public accounts. Think of that as the master document. It pulls everything together from the entire federal government, and it's the main report that gets sent over to Parliament for everyone to review.
And if you were to crack one of these reports open, this is pretty much what you'd find. You'd see a summary of the cash coming in and going out, a snapshot of what the government owns and owes, and, this is really important, the notes that explain all the fine print. But what's really exciting is that we're seeing more and more performance data in there, information that tries to link the money spent to actual results. That's a huge step.
Now, of course, no system is perfect, and this one is always evolving. That means it faces its own set of challenges. So for our final section, let's look at those hurdles and what the path forward to a more transparent future looks like.
Okay, the single biggest change happening right now is this major shift from cash-based to what's called accrual-based accounting. So what does that even mean? Well, with the current system, a transaction only gets recorded when money actually changes hands. But with the new accrual system, revenue gets recorded when it's earned, and an expense gets recorded when it's incurred, even if the cash hasn't moved yet. It provides a way more complete and honest picture of the government's finances, and it brings Malaysia up to speed with global standards. It's a game changer.
But of course, a massive transition like this isn't easy. There are definitely some hurdles. You've got things like reports being submitted late, different systems being used at federal and state levels, and just the huge challenge of training everybody on this complex new accrual system. These are real, tough issues.
But the good news is there's a clear plan to tackle this. Getting that accrual accounting system fully up and running is the #1 goal.
And it's being supported by more digitalization, more training for staff, and a real push to make these reports easier for everyday people, not just accountants, to read and understand.
So the crucial point, the big takeaway from all of this, is that Malaysia's financial reporting system isn't just sitting still. It's a living, breathing system that's actively changing, and every change is pushing it towards being more accurate, more credible, and way more transparent for all of us.
And that leaves us with one final thought. As these reports get more digital, more detailed, and easier to access, the system becomes more transparent than ever. So the question kind of shifts to us, doesn't it? What is our role as citizens in actually reading the government's report card?